Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And a range report on a gun I honestly thought I would never shoot. Not because it is expensive or rare, but because I really wasn't interested in it. And this is on loan from one of my subscribers, Paulo, who, if you've been following my channel recently, you guys know I've been doing a number of range reports on firearms that he has lent me and has given me an opportunity to shoot a wide variety of stuff that I don't personally own and be able to bring this content to you. But getting back to my original comment that this was a gun that I thought I would never shoot because I just wasn't interested in it, I think I'm going to have to admit that, and kind of spoil this kind of ahead of time, that this gun exceeded my expectations. While I still may not be interested in one of these guns, the Canik TP9SF, which actually I've heard is pronounced Janik, and I heard that from the Military Arms channel when he visited Turkey, where these guns are built. So I don't really know if it's Janik or Canik. I'm just going to say Canik because it does start with a C, but I've heard people say it's pronounced with a J, just something about the language and the region where these are made. And so I also want to talk about another thing when it comes to any of my range reports. I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can. One of the things I warned people about in the video I made about not having gun tube heroes. You know, there are those gigantic channels out there that everyone loves, and whatever these people say on those channels, it almost becomes gospel, whether it's about a gun that is positive or negative. And I always say, of course, take their opinions and, you know, absorb them, think about them, but always take them with a grain of salt, because everybody, including the most profound writers and reviewers, have some type of bias, including myself. And I don't hide that. I fully admit that I am a brand snob. So sometimes when it comes to a gun like HK or Colt, I might rate those a little bit higher than I would a lesser known company or a company that I'm not interested in. But I do my best to explain that in the range reports. But being that this is a company that I wasn't really interested in, that it's a Century Arms import, and not that that makes it bad, but Century Arms sometimes has a spotty reputation when it comes to their imports, and the fact that it's made in Turkey, which is not really necessarily an ally of the United States. I think they're in NATO, but sometimes the origin of a country, I don't know if I really want to support them if they're not really our friends on the international stage. Does that mean that their guns are bad? Not necessarily, but it is just something to consider. I'm not telling you that you should not buy them for that reason. It's just one of those personal preferences. But for a combination of all those things, this was not a gun that has ever been on my radar. So when Paulo said, hey, do you want to review it? Yeah, I really do, because I'll probably never shoot another one. So just handling this gun, getting it out of the box, which by the way I was kind of impressed with. It comes in a nice little case here. You get a couple of things with it that I don't think you get with other brands. They actually give you a nice little holster here. Uses a belt clip, I think, here. I haven't actually tried to carry it. It's Kydex of some kind. It's their brand. It says, you know, Canik on it. It seems to be decent, so you actually get a holster with it. Just as just kind of part of the package. You get a couple magazines, and these magazines hold a pretty substantial number of rounds. 18 is what the witness holes say. So, you know, you get some nice high capacity magazines there. The case is fine. So just the fact that you get, oh, I think you also get an extra or some interchangeable back straps as well. And you get a cleaning brush and a cleaning rod. So let me get those out here. So here is your cleaning brush and so forth. So you get a few accessories, little things, and for a budget gun, that's kind of nice to have. So that's what you get there. But the holster, I think, is the nicest part of that little package. But I got it out, and I started handling it, taking a look at it. And I gotta say, I was really impressed with it. First off, the build quality from just holding it, disassembling it, seems to be very high quality. The finish seems to be very durable. I really like this flat dark earth color that we have here. The styling of the slide, for me, kind of looks like a Smith & Wesson M&P. So maybe like either the 1.0 or the 2.0 series. It kind of reminds me of that. The frame of this gun kind of reminds me a lot of the Gucci Glocks, the ones where you have all the different stippling options. It seems to be well constructed. You have a nice rail here in the front. The polymer seems to be of high quality. It seems to be kind of dense, which I like very much, like a Walther type of polymer. You have very nice stippling on the side, but the front and back straps have more of the pyramid kind of shape. So it's not overly aggressive, but it's only aggressive where you want it to be. I kind of feel like it's a very well thought out frame design. The build, as I said, extremely high quality. The fit and finish, a lot higher than what I was personally expecting from handling the gun. And the sights are also dovetailed. So a lot of things in here from just before I even got it to the range, I was already pretty impressed with it. So how did it shoot? It shot amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was exceptionally accurate with this gun. I like to think of myself as a decent shot. I'm in no way an expert marksman. I don't do competition shooting. It is simply a hobby for me. I do practice for self-defense. So at various ranges, 5, 7, 10, 25 yards. I'll just kind of run through a couple of drills and things, but this thing shot amazing. It's one of those guns that shoots way better than I do and makes me look like I'm an expert when I'm really not. I found that the accuracy and the ability to put very, very small groups on paper at all ranges was really easy. The sight system that you have here, you have kind of a blacked out sight in the rear. See if I can get this in focus. And you have a white dot in the front. See if I can get that in focus as well. Right there. It just worked really nice. Now I'm sure there's some aftermarket sights that you can replace these with if you wanted to go with something else, but these worked fabulous for me. So the only thing when it came to the shooting of this gun that I was a little bit disappointed with was the trigger. Now it's going to be a weird complaint about the trigger in that it breaks exceptionally clean and the wall and the audible reset is very, very nice. So I like 75 to 80% of this trigger. And I really think that's why the gun shot so well. There's only one thing about the trigger that I don't like, and that is the take up before the wall. So let me show you here on camera, just making sure the gun is safety checked. And I'll come over here to the side. And so I'm going to pull the trigger here, and let me do the reset. So here's the reset. Very nice audible. You're right there at the wall. Super clean break. But when you take and pull your trigger finger away from the gun, this take up right here is very gritty, and I don't know, I kind of feel like something's rubbing in there. So, but everyone that I've talked to about these guns say they're about all the same. But if you're someone that can really ride the reset, this trigger is excellent. So I don't know if there's anything you can do to work on that kind of take up right there. But if you could, this would be an exceptional trigger. Now, Paulo told me that these guns actually use, under license, a version of the Walther P99 trigger, which is really nice. I like most of the Walther triggers, and probably one of the things that is borrowed from that design that you can immediately see is the striker indicator. So right now the gun is cocked, and you have a little indicator here on the back. So when I now pull the trigger, you'll see it goes away. So it just simply, that's the back of the striker, and it goes into the slide of the gun. So you can visually see if the striker is cocked. I do like that, but one thing about this design that I think I don't like compared to something like the Glock design is that with a Glock design, the striker is always at half cock until you pull the trigger. Part of the take up of the trigger is actually pulling the striker back to now have enough strength to actually hit the primer, indent it, and make the round go off. But with a gun like this, the striker's already fully cocked all the time. Now, is that an issue? No, because you still have a firing pin block as well. It just kind of takes away one of those safety features that I do like on some other striker-fired handguns, especially ones that I would use for concealed carry. Now, does that mean this gun is dangerous? By no means. No, it's not dangerous at all. It's just one of those kind of personal preference things. Now, I will say that this is going to be the same way as it would be on the HK VP9, which I think is also a fantastic pistol. That striker is always fully cocked as well. But that's one of the things that makes you wonder about that take-up, because one of the things people always talk about with the Glock triggers is when you're pulling that trigger back and you have that take-up going to the wall, because you're pulling the striker back, you get a little bit of that grit. You can feel that. With the striker that's already fully cocked, you shouldn't have that kind of friction in that take-up, because you're not having to pull that striker back. So maybe there's something internally that can be done, or an aftermarket trigger modification that could give you a little bit better take-up on that. But as the gun sits, because I shot it so well, and because I like to ride the reset, it doesn't really bother me. But it's enough that I think it should be talked about in any range report or review, just depending on your shooting style. I actually want to do a video in the near future where I talk about things I see at the range. Now remember, I'm in no way an expert shooter, but I do see some people, especially new shooters, have a habit of, after they shoot, they either they bring the gun down to look where they've shot after every shot, or they always pull their trigger finger all the way out. They don't know about riding the reset and only releasing the trigger just to where it resets, you hear the click, and then can pull again. So if you're one of those shooters that likes to take your finger way off the trigger, you're gonna have that kind of mushy, frictiony, gritty take up again. But this is gonna be a personal preference thing. Now, the magazines drop really free. I like that a lot. They're in there very tight. I don't have any issues with that. But when it comes to the takedown of the gun, I have one issue, that it's too easy. Now I know what you're thinking. What in the world is he talking about? The gun can come apart too easy. Because don't you want the gun to come apart easy? The answer is yes. Now on most guns, like a Glock, when you have to pull down the slide release here, I guess not really the slide release, I guess the takedown lever is what it's called. Normally you would have to pull the slide back just a little bit by about 3 millimeters or so, and then pull those tabs down and the slide comes off. On this gun, as long as the trigger is pulled, all you have to do is pull these tabs down and the gun comes apart. So that's it right there, the gun comes apart. It's that easy. Now, that actually makes it very convenient for a lot of people. However, I want my gun to have to be in a very particular and special place for it to be disassembled. I haven't heard of anybody saying the guns and the slides have come off in firing, but if that's all it takes to have the slide come off, I tend to think that maybe in a holster, or maybe the way that you carry this, or even under the recoil over time of the gun, that takedown lever might be accidentally actuated when you don't want it to be accidentally actuated. So I kind of find that to be odd. I don't like that. I kind of wish you had to bring the slide back a little bit, that just because you drop the disassembly tabs, the slide shouldn't come off. That's just kind of a personal design opinion of mine. So right there, I didn't pull the trigger. There you go, I pulled the trigger there. Good, I'm glad I caught that on camera. But yeah, so as long as that trigger's pulled, pull that tab down, it comes off that easy. Not really a big fan of that. I just want a little bit more intent to have to go into disassembly, because I don't want the gun falling apart when I don't want it to come apart, So overall, this gun has really impressed me. Would I look at one of these for my collection? Maybe not. As I said, I already have lots of guns and I'm kind of a brand snob. However, this is definitely a gun that I would recommend to other people. If you're not going to go out and buy 20, 30 guns like I do, and you're just looking for a nice, well-built pistol for either concealed carry or home defense, I think the Canik series of pistols really might be the way to go. Very impressed with this. I know they have a lot of different options. I'm not completely up to date on all of their models. As I mentioned before, this is the TP9SF in flat dark earth. So, how do I rate this on my little star level chart, 0 through 5? Well, if it wasn't for the trigger, it wasn't for the disassembly, or the ease of disassembly of the slide, I'd easily give this thing 5 out of 5 stars, because it exceeded my expectations. It made me rethink my bias of the company and the gun itself. But because of those issues, 4.5 stars out of 5. I just would want a little bit better trigger and make it just a little bit more difficult to take the slide off, just because it's too easy here, where I think that if you're carrying it a certain way, you could unintentionally pull those tabs down and have some type of misfire, slide come off, or something's not in battery. You know what I'm talking about. It's just too easy. And those tabs are actually really nice because they have a lot of area for purchase. I really like that. So that's another reason why I could see those accidentally being depressed when you don't want them depressed. So that's it. The options, fully loaded, man. This thing comes loaded with everything that you would want in a quality pistol. As I said, dovetailed sights, polymer striker fired, high capacity handgun for self-defense or carry, well built, 4.5 stars out of 5. So there you go. So that is my range report and thoughts on the Canik TP9SF. I had to make sure I got that model right. So there you go. I'll give you guys one more look here. Very, very impressed with this thing. Do you guys own a Canik? What do you guys think? Maybe you're not as biased as I was initially, but this is definitely a gun that I am not ever going to kind of foo-foo again. Very, very impressed with the quality and the build of it. So I'm really glad I got to shoot it. So thank you, Paulo, for also letting me borrow this gun. So there you go. So as I said, do you have a Canik? What do you guys think? Do you like them? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.